Hello, EggChasers. It's the EggChasers Rugby podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. Back in the rugby dungeon again, as we are every single Monday morning and have been for very nearly 10 years. In fact, the 10-year anniversary is fast approaching.
It is, isn't it? Because we started midway through a season.
Yeah. We'll have to check the exact date of the first.
Can we still find the first? I hope we can't find the first podcast. I hope it's dead.
It's there. It's there in the feed.
Oh
no.
You missed. Oh, maybe it is.
No,
I don't know.
it's there in the feed with Blake and everything.
Yeah. No.
Oh, Blake.
Oh, poor Blake. That's JB.
Hello, Tim.
That's Phil.
Hello, Tim.
And this podcast with you every Monday morning, as reliable as Ultimate Rugby is. And we had a couple of emails, and so always get in touch. Contact eggchasers@gmail.com.
Has anyone from Ultimate Rugby got in touch with us to tell us how they upload their numbers?
Josh O'Rourke and Miles Hunter, a couple of people that got in touch to point out that on Ultimate Rugby, so Josh's email here says, guys, just a quick one to let you know, Ultimate Rugby has Quins versus Exeter as a 3:15 kickoff, and more interestingly, Nick Evans on the bench.
Yes, that is quite interesting.
Wow.
The mistakes are so random. So random.
They have to be done by design, don't they?
Yeah. You can't really cock that up.
No.
How do you get a player who's currently coaching England and last played for Quins 5 years ago?
Incredible
4
stuff.
years ago?
Incredible stuff.
So, yeah, it's great. This podcast is, we're going to be looking at domestic rugby matters, grassroots rugby, domestic premiership rugby, Nola Gold, and all the rest of the other domestic matters. And
of course, the intensely spicy Lancashire RFU Councillor seat.
Absolutely.
Intensely spicy.
Do you want to start there?
Yeah, go on then. May as well.
So tell us, what's the latest?
So latest was I put my name forward. I was accepted as a candidate. I don't think they can not accept me, so it's not a huge milestone.
Well, you could have had an incredibly profane statement.
Yep.
You could have failed to do some basic admin. There are ways that you could have fallen.
Yeah, and my statement went
hurdle.
in right on the deadline.
Did it?
Yeah,
you could have missed the deadline. I
had
guess.
an email saying, "Where is your statement?" So yeah, so my statement was being proofread because people who know me know that I can't spell or write particularly well.
You can write very well.
I write very well, but I can't spell. Very well.
Yes,
I
agree with that part of it.
Big difference.
Yes.
So I got my statement over. There are 4 other candidates.
3 other candidates or 4 other candidates?
Sorry, there's 3 other candidates. I'm the 4th candidate.
Yes.
And we're
going for 2 slots.
Going for 2 slots.
Yep.
So the one slot is going to be filled by a completely new councilman, and the other slot might be filled by the existing councilman who needs to get re-elected. And I think that's going to be a tough job because I guess you're going to have to defend your position on the high tackle laws and what you've done. And there's going to have to be some sort of reckoning for that, I would say. But we'll soon find out because on the 15th of February at Liverpool St Helens, there is a hustings. So all 4 of us will be...
When again? Was it?
The 15th of
March.
8 March.
Of March.
A week on Wednesday.
Week on Wednesdays is the hustings.
Okay.
And so the competition, so you said there's definitely going to be 1 new one because there were 2 previous. 1 who has come to the end of their term, you can only get re-elected.
Yeah, you can only
3
serve
times?
9 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, so after your 9 years, you're done. But it's 3-year terms. You've got to be elected for each term.
Okay. So it's a bit like President of the United States. Just
but with more power.
1 more term, slightly shorter terms.
Yeah.
But so there is definitely going to be at least 1 new candidate.
Yeah.
But 1 person has gone for one of those 2 previous ones has gone for re-election.
Exactly right.
Just in case, because only like 5% of people are on Twitter. But you posted your statement. I was very impressed with it. I'm going to read it.
Please do, yeah.
It is a really good statement.
So this is Jonathan Beardmore's personal statement as a candidate for the vacant Lancashire RFU Council seat, one of the 2. So this is me. I think it would be if you could read it, but I think
my words deserve a professional broadcaster.
It's not what I meant. I thought it might seem a bit egocentric, but
yeah,
no, I'll go with it. I'm very proud to say that over the last 15 years, I've played over 400 senior games for my 2 clubs, Broughton Park FC and Didsbury Tockh RFC. If I had my way, I would not be sending this application. Instead, I would be continuing to do what I love, training and playing with friends and teammates. I admit that until recently, I had not given much thought to rugby administration in Lancashire. So long as games were held on the weekend, I was content to let others shoulder the burden of committees and working groups. I now deeply regret that position. The importance of the role has become very clear to me as a result of the way the new tackle height laws were nodded through with no consideration to their impact on players. These laws are now, the RFU tell us, being, quote, communicated better. As far as I'm concerned, they are being implemented against our will. As things now stand, even if the new laws are completely abandoned, the damage and trust between rugby clubs and councillors has been done. A couple of things stuck me during my first and only interaction with our councillors. First was the unwillingness to reflect the views of the member clubs. Second was the callous disregard shown to the clubs like Oldham and Orrell, who are fearing for their very existence. If I become a Lancashire RFU representative, I will work on the 3 following basic principles. 1. Communication and engagement. As it is always the case, situations are complex. However, during my inquiries about how councillors communicate with their constituent clubs, I am yet to find any club members anywhere who had any engagement with our councillors. This is astonishing, considering the responsibility they have. My priority is to establish meaningful relationships among the constituent clubs, so that whenever I exercise a vote, it will be a reflection of our members' views and interests, rather than my personal preference or the wish of the RFU. During the tackle height meeting at LSH, what stood out was the range of views around the tackle height. Not one club appeared to agree with the lowering to the so-called, quote, waist, nor with the councillors' decision to vote for it. Our representatives voted for systemic change in the game, but consulted not a single club in the process. This would never be my approach. 2. Transparency. My second priority will be to publicise as much as possible what the RFU Council are doing and what the reasoning is behind their decisions. Throughout the whole tackle height debate, the opacity over how the council reached its decisions has been quite an eye-opener for me. I can do this more effectively than any other candidate, not just via the normal channels available to the councillors and the Lancashire RFU, but also through my personal channels. Aside from playing and coaching, I also have a decade's worth of writing and talking about the game, including my podcast, EggChasers. I'll give it a listen.
Yeah, that's good. You like
that
it?
is still one of the world's largest rugby podcasts, downloaded. Well, we don't need to tell them how many million times a year it was downloaded.
It is quite a lot of millions, though, isn't it? It's quite a lot of millions.
This week alone, 30,000 regular listeners, including many in Lancashire, will get to hear this very statement. Yes, they will. And we'll even get an even more detailed explanation of why this role and the health of rugby in our county is so important to me. Since the tackle height vote, the EggChasers have received thousands of messages on this subject. We have become a focal point for people frustrated that nobody has been listening to them. I will use every means available to me to promote and publicise council activity and that of Lancashire RFU. 3. Preserving and growing the game. Lastly, to be a rugby player means something. The bonds formed between teammates, coaches, past players, committee members and volunteers will last a lifetime. These relationships are not based on a hollow association, but on the shared experience of playing such a physical, confrontational and intimidating sport. These are not words or descriptions that you will ever hear coming out of Twickenham. Nonetheless, they are the qualities demanded if you want to play at Twickenham, and they are the reason this game is so special. Rather than passively nod through the RFU executive's agenda of sterilising the game, we have to remind the world why rugby is so important, and to mount a defence of the game at every turn. To date, I have seen no evidence of the council attempting this. In fact, I have seen quite the opposite. The council themselves have stated how concerned they are about negative media coverage. My answer to this is simple. If you can't get into the public square and mount a muscular defence of why rugby is important in its current form, then representing the sport is not a job you should consider. It will be my commitment that as a council member, I will take every opportunity not only to defend rugby, but proactively promote it in the county of Lancashire and beyond as much as I possibly can. Rugby should never accept changing its laws to satisfy outside interests. Summary. Rugby's facing some enormous challenges at present. However, it is nothing like the existential crisis so many would like us to believe. In fact, I believe there is huge cause for optimism. During this whole process, I have been heartened at the quality of the people that are involved in rugby at club level. The answers to rugby's problems do not lie within the halls of power at HQ, nor with what I think, but with the clubs. Clubs that in some cases have been in existence for over a century and are still going strong. Lancashire has some of the richest rugby heritage in the world, and this should be front and centre of everything we do as a county. After having consulted widely in county and observing the passion on display in the last Lancashire meeting, I would consider it the greatest privilege to represent such a county. Club rugby has so much to offer, so many, and I hope that whoever progresses to represent the Lancashire RFU appreciates this. Jonathan Beardmore.
4 more years. 4 more years.
Yes. Come on.
That's class, mate.
Very, very good.
That's class.
Got to win some votes now.
So you said you'd expand on it, so go on.
Yeah, okay. So, obviously, the tackle stuff is front and centre of everything which I want to do. Because that has to be overturned. It just has to be overturned. And if it's not overturned, it needs to be neutered as far as we possibly can. So if that means it going into the armpits, that is a short-term compromise that I would accept. But ultimately, I want it to go back to where it came from. And if we're going to change it, it's got to change from the pros and come down. There's no point in starting with the amateurs to sort of grow the consumer base, but not actually doing anything with the pros. The other thing, which is really irritating me, is this idea of so-called community rugby. That needs to go in the bin. It's not community rugby. Yes, the community gets a benefit from it, but it's club rugby. The whole point of club rugby is to be competitive. And I think there is this idea now that if we call it community rugby, it serves a greater purpose beyond actually playing the sport. And it doesn't, because as soon as you take that away, what you're left with is, well, just an excuse for the RFU to meddle with things. Like, you don't need the same laws, you can play reduced games, maybe, you do things which you otherwise wouldn't if you were trying to win more. Clubs want to win. That is the whole point of having your club. So the whole moniker of community rugby, I think, is just, I think it's poison to the entire game. I'd want to get that removed as soon as possible. And the other thing as well is, this role comes with a hell of a lot of expenses. I don't know if you know what the expenses are for.
No, I've no idea.
We've kind of joked about it in the past, but I genuinely have no idea.
They are huge, because getting someone from Twickenham from Lancashire to Twickenham to watch a game, all expenses paid. You got your hotels, you got your accommodation, you got the tickets themselves,
your travel,
your transfers.
Just those 3 things: travel, accommodation, and tickets. That could easily be close to £1,000.
Now, I don't want to be too pious about this, but I don't think I'd ever go to Twickenham if that. I mean, I don't go to Twickenham when a Talk H game is on. But if you're the councillor for any region, what are you doing in Twickenham when there's rugby on in your county? If there's no rugby on in your county, by all means, go to Twickenham. Why would anyone go to Twickenham if you had rugby to watch? I mean, I'm not just saying that. I mean that. That's why I don't go to Twickenham.
So talk to me about the expenses a second, because I can understand the utility if there's a big meeting and that there are benefits to being there in person and making those networks and building those relationships. So there's a collegiate kind of relationship going on. I think that's important. So I'd have no problem if some of my contribution to rugby was to fund councillors to get together every now and again for a quarterly meeting or something.
For the benefit of everyone, because they're going to be discussing.
So as I understand it, there's like 5 meetings a year. I think they've recently all been done on Zoom because of obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You historically did have to meet in person. I think they're probably back. But I think there's a handful of England games that you go to too. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to go to watch England if I get this role, because I will, but probably not if there's rugby going on in Lancashire, because that's your job. Your
first port would be to Lancashire, to your constituency, and second port would be to have an expenses paid trip.
Exactly right. But
everyone would love that.
There is another element to this, which is when I've been looking through the clubs, I've been really quite inspired by some of the ambition of some of the teams. So I was talking to the Tarleton chairman, really impressive bloke. I was like, yeah, that's the sort of guy that we need. Now people say, oh well, Tarleton are doing things one way, or they might not agree with everything that they do. But they've got ambition, and that's why they've got a strong first team, and that's why they've got a thriving club, and that's why they want to build a gym and have an extension and this and this. And you think, yeah, those are the guys that you need sort of supporting and driving. And I'm not sure I've ever seen a councilman at Talk H. I'm not sure I've ever seen one. Have you ever seen one at Sedgley?
I certainly wasn't aware that I did see them, if I ever did see them.
Yeah, if they were ever there at either Manchester Rugby Club or Broughton Park, I was not aware they were there.
Never seen one. So, I mean, that would be... So, the more that I learn about Lancashire, the more I want to actually go to these clubs and listen to what they've got to say and what they do. I mean, my exposure to local rugby outside of Talk H is when I went to play for, say, Old Winians. And I actually loved that experience because it's a different club. It's a different community. You understand how they operate and what their ethos is. And I can't understand why you would not want to do that. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it sounds like such a fun role just to get to know the clubs. Far more so than going to Twickenham. And anyone can do that. So, yeah, I sincerely hope that I get it.
Yeah, I think you'd be a breath of fresh air in terms of your approach. And I'd also like some Twickenham tickets as well, every now and again.
You can have them.
Yeah, I'll take yours. If you're watching
Take them.
rugby in Lancashire, me and Tim will be in Twickenham.
Well, I'll get the media ones. Don't worry about that. But JB can sort you out.
Exactly.
Sorted. Wonderful. Well, that's really good. So I'm going to find. In fact, I'm just going to say this right now as a little tease. One of the greatest emails we've received.
Wow.
So I will find that while we're talking about a bit of actual rugby.
Where do you want to start? Should we do it chronologically?
No, I don't think there's any need to do that because that suggests that we'll talk about every game in depth.
That's a fair point.
There was a top of the table clash today.
There was.
Which is fresh in the minds. I think that probably, with 1 and 2 in the Gallagher Premiership, probably deserves top billing.
And I was there. I was actually inside. I was in the bowels of the AJ Bell Arena to watch it, and it was a very entertaining game.
It was a meaty game.
It was meaty. There was quite a bit of niggle from both sides. No love lost between these two.
No.
There was quite a bit of niggle. There was an incredibly partisan crowd. The stadium was packed. I've certainly never seen it on TV or in person that I can recall as full of that, which is great for Sale. I know they've been really pushing this to get it, the top of the table clash, sold out.
On a Man United v Liverpool day as well.
Man United v Liverpool afternoon, and thank God I was at this game, not watching that one.
Yeah, right.
I genuinely didn't look at my phone until I got home, and so I was like, what? That must be a typo, the score that had popped up. No, unfortunately it wasn't. But yeah, really good game. And so I was watching this with a friend of mine he's a rugby man, but he doesn't follow the Premiership particularly closely. He actually follows more rugby league. Chap I work with, chap called George. I once described him as a quasi-rugby fan, and that's unfair to him. He is a rugby man.
Right.
But more of a rugby league man. But he was definitely supporting Sale. I was kind of neutral, genuinely neutral in this, wanting rugby to win. And when Saracens went 16-0 up, we both just kind of thought, well, that's it. Game over. There's no way Sale are going to come back. They hadn't fired a shot up to that point. It was all Saracens. And we just thought it would be done. We were totally wrong because Sale, the way they fought back towards the end of the first half, and the way that they controlled the game, they were by far the better team throughout the second half.
Yeah, they were.
They absolutely controlled it. They controlled the territory. Other than that one pushover try with about 15 minutes to go, which gave Saracens a lifeline, it was all Sale Sharks. They looked more threatening, they looked more dangerous, they controlled the territory. Just an all-round a better team in that second half.
Here's a quick observation about Sale. You look at their team that they put out today. Now, if I read this team to you last year when we thought, Sale might win it last year, and you saw the names on it, it is substantially different to what you saw today.
Yeah.
No Currys, no Faf.
Yeah. No Lude.
Yeah, I mean...
No Manu. At a point in time last year, this year, we thought that Rob Dupree was no good and George Ford was going to be the saviour.
Gus Waugh was way behind Will Cliff.
Yeah.
Like Gus Waugh, Rob Dupree, Ryan Mills, who's going to be a star. If we if they keep him fit, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be signing of the millennium.
No Currys, no Dan Dupree, and Sam Dugdale in the back row.
Sam Dugdale can bang well. He loves to bang.
No, I'm not knocking it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm backing your point up.
Yeah.
There's only really Sam James there, who you'd have said last year would be the absolute boy. So, O'Flaherty's new Carpenter came. He played awesome.
Yeah, he was great.
I think he's the next England fullback. I know everyone's going on about Stewart, but this guy reminds me, the way he runs the ball back in particular, Mike Brown.
It's his ability to beat the first defender.
Yeah.
And for that run that got elicited the red card, that the way he took contact on that and then powered through was very, very impressive.
Yeah. Good pick up
Stewart's got
from Leeds, wasn't it?
A hell of a fight on his
hands. Was he from Leeds?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I didn't know where he'd come from.
Yeah, I don't think Freddie Stewart's going to be the incumbent unchallenged for that long. I think Carpenter's got to have a shout.
I think my thought is more likely to be the England fullback will be Arundel.
Arundel, yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about this. Let's put a pin in that.
Yes.
Put a pin in that.
Fair point.
Arendel's good.
Fair point.
Put a pin in that for the international pod. Yeah, really solid win. But yeah, clearly it's a shame that it was 1v2 without stars.
Yes. Which
What's
we
a
always...
shame?
It's something that we often criticise the URC for when you've got Leinster, Munster, and none of the Irish, current Irish squad playing. That is ludicrous. And you were the same here.
Particularly when they clearly... it was clearly a move where they said, OK, Quinn's players, you can go back and play in your big Twickenham match.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, that's...
Well, I'll just say on this, I think it hurt Saracens more. So Saracens lost their captain and the England captain.
Jamie George.
Jamie George, of course.
Owen Farrell. Mako. Marrow.
Ben Earl was missing.
Yeah. Nick Ezekwe was playing.
He was. Yeah.
Daly's injured, isn't he?
Daly is injured. Malins?
Malins, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Saracens did come off worse from this exchange. There again, this isn't a typical... I mean, this isn't the Sale team I would expect.
No.
At the start of the season. Rob Dupree, rugby god.
Yeah.
No other word for it. Do you know what I enjoyed?
It's all that time playing 13.
Alex Anderson was just calling up Steve Borthwick, please take George Ford into camp, please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
We need a reason not to play this guy. So, one of the Carpenter's second try, when he goes underneath the sticks, was I mean, you just don't see many first phase tries. I mean, actually, was that a first phase try? Have I made that up? I thought it came off a scrum.
I can't remember, because I was in the ground. It's all merged into one, because you don't get the replays.
So I think it was off a scrum, but it might have been off a breakdown, but I think it's off a scrum. And what I liked about it is they did everything wrong. So they were all drifting sideways, they were all easing into each other's space, and the move still worked.
Yeah.
Such a nicely designed play.
The one I liked, which was, I'm sure it was off a scrum, it might have been a line out, was the one where Carpenter breaks through from the little 1, 2, 3 through the middle.
Yeah.
And Carpenter just going hell for leather with a little tip pass from Sam James, and Sam James got absolutely levelled. I think, was it Lazowski who levelled him? He was down for...
It does sound like a Lazowski style of defence, that.
Fair time. That was the one where Carpenter slipped. He makes a 40-yard break and then slips, and it kind of... the play all ground to a halt.
I mean, it does show how important Sam James is. People so underestimate Sam James. His decision-making, his skills under pressure. He's not particularly flash. You know, he's no Henry Slade, but he is so important to that team, because when you remove him, that creativity just disappears.
Well, after he's played 13 for so well for so long, maybe he should try playing at 10.
Well, yes. Well, Diamonds used to do this.
This is the move.
Well, George Ford should go to 13.
13.
Yeah,
imagine how good Ford would be.
If Ford went to 13 for a bit, imagine how good he'd be.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Faz. Anyone complained about Faz being 12. It's because he should be 13.
Exactly.
Yes.
So Sale do a lot of moves, or not a lot of moves. They're unusual, as in they repeat the same thing quite frequently, and they'll try and run a different option from the same move.
Same shape every time, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just... It's quite old school to do that, because most teams like to vary everything, but they're fairly consistent with what they do. They're also incredibly hard to get the ball off. When they're going forward, they look like a nightmare.
They've got some big bodies.
Yeah. I do wonder,
really
though,
big bodies.
What do they do without a Dupree? Because they get such good go forward.
They don't need to worry about it, because they've got them for they're wrapped up. Contracts wrapped up. They've got them.
Yeah, and they've got a spare, and they've always got spare Duprees.
Always got a spare, so it's fine.
Yeah,
there's always a spare one.
It's good if that's a little. Again, it's just a little taster, a little tease about what a final could look like.
Who was Sale missing? They're missing both Currys.
Both Currys, one Dupree, George Ford,
Manu.
Is he with England or is he injured?
Yeah, he's with England.
Yeah.
Is he with England?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
We'll talk about that in the international pod. Do you want to hear the best email we've ever had?
Yeah.
Well, can I just have one more? Actually, two more things for this.
Yeah, go on.
Briefly. The red card, sitting with a rugby league man.
Let's talk about the red card.
Yeah.
He was perplexed, and I was, because it was on the screen, but I couldn't get a proper look. To me, it felt like the head-to-head, if there was any, was incredibly anecdotal.
Yeah.
It was incredibly passive, and I was actually surprised they looked at it at first, even though the replays were being shown, and then I thought, I was saying to he was saying, what's going on is play on. I was saying, well, no, if there is head contact, it'll be yellow. If they can't determine there's head contact, nothing, because Hislop was so passive, because he's like falling back.
Yeah.
And then red.
It spoke to me as the same as when the lines got blurred with football about when clearly a punch is a red card, and that's somehow morphed into if you even raise your hands.
Yeah.
Well, you can't raise your hands.
You can't raise your hands.
Can't do that.
Why not raise your hands? Automatic red card. What are you complaining about? It did feel like rugby as kind of the lines. It's just incrementally moved to this point where you go, oh yeah, well that's a red card because there was contact with.
Yeah, and the commentary team said it, and it just really irked me. The laws are there to change the minds of the players in those split-second decisions. What? How does that work? Like, you can't change someone's mind in their split-second decision. That's why it's a split-second decision. Like, you're not going to... The change behaviour thing is just such nonsense. And what really upsets me about this, now I've sort of gone a little deeper into the head injury thing. What happened to Hislop today was window dressing. That was like a sacrificial lamb. Now, I'm not saying we should have head contact, far from it. But the idea that what Hislop did today was dangerous to someone's brain health, yet literally thousands of subconcussive hits and a huge season is not, is beyond me. So it's like,
So I know what you're saying. I'd prefer that that there was a bit of a let the boys play attitude about what happened today. Not talking in general, but certainly about what happened today. But the players played fewer games.
Exactly. So it's like, oh yeah, we got rid of Hislop for his danger, but we are going to make the lads play 30 games a season and suffer hundreds of subconcussive hits, all of which contribute to TBIs and brain damage.
Or lots of concussive hits that are perfectly legal.
Yes, because they are perfectly legal. So you can't. I mean, it's a game which is dangerous to the health of your brain. Let's play it last.
Eddie Stevens of Rugby Rants and Banter, I'm going to quote him again. It's a great quote. He says he's going to put it on a T-shirt. I hope that is true. The risk is the reward.
Yeah.
So I just think the reason they do these things, the reason they're trying to root out they're not trying to root it out. It's worse than that. They're trying to make an example of these players to show what they've done. Because rooting out will make not a shred. If there was never another hit like Hislop's today, there would never ever be any decrease in the concussion rate.
It's kind of...
Never. But you want to make an example of this guy.
Yeah, it's making an example, isn't it?
So look what we've done.
It's that... I'm not suggesting this is virtue signalling. I'm just saying the definition of virtue signalling is being seen to do the right thing.
Yes.
Not necessarily addressing any particular problem and doing the right thing.
They need to play less games. I mean, that's
I can definitely get on board with less games. Fewer games, yeah.
Fewer games.
Yeah.
And this is why you know that they're fairly insincere about... player welfare. The people who say they're really into it. I've never seen them say this. I've never seen them. 16 games is more than enough for any professional rugby player. If you're a full-time professional rugby player, 16 games a year is far more than enough.
But I tell you what, the people that won't want that is the players, because their wages will drop massively.
Yeah, well,
unless there is something in the scarcity drives demand.
I think there is.
In the medium to longer term, but like this season to next season. No.
Yeah, you're right. There will be a short term.
You can play half the number of games and you will get half the amount of money.
Yeah. Short term.
Do you want that sign here? None of those players are signing that.
Yeah, it'd be awesome, wouldn't it, when you said, yeah, look, guys, we've done you a massive favour. You've only got to play 16 games a season. Here's your little season here. Yeah. Season planner. And cheers, we're off to Japan for 14 more games now.
Yeah, because
that is what they would do.
Because the sell to the... Yeah, that's exactly what they would do.
Yeah. But at least you've covered your own back, I guess.
Yeah, because the sell to the paying fan or BT Sport, for example, would be, boys, you're getting half the number of games, we want the same amount of money. And that just can't work.
Doesn't happen.
It can't work in the short term.
So yeah, square all those circles and you're fine. But it wouldn't have affected the result, I don't think, and Saracens still could have won. Well, it might have affected the result, but that bit of defence where Sale were on their own line and
they love it, don't they?
Repelled Saracens, that was great.
They absolutely love it.
It was good. Good game.
But one last thing for me.
Yeah.
Best in show, purely aesthetically, being up close. I was 3 rows from the front in the East Stand, so good look at the boys. Notable mention to Ryan Mills and his quads.
Yep.
Great quads on Ryan Mills. He's in good shape, that boy.
Yep.
notable mention to Ewan Ashman. Ewan Ashman looks tremendous.
Does he?
Yeah. Solidly built boy. And built in the right way.
Yeah,
We should have a rugby version of Crufts, and we should just objectify these rugby players.
I thought Nick Ezekwe looks fantastic.
He does look good.
Big chest, small waist, big legs, big arms, especially compared to Hugh Tizard, who's about the same, probably height and weight, but not in the same condition as Ezekwe.
Who, by the way, Tizard is meant to be an athletic prop. I mean, he is an athletic prop.
Lock.
Sorry, lock. Yes.
Yeah.
He is an athletic lock. But it just, when you put him next to Ezekwe...
Yeah, when
he's not
and you were going to say, who's best in show then?
Best in show surprised me a little bit, but God, he's handsome and he's in great shape. Tom Ellis, playing number 6 for Saracens, coming from Bath. He looked tremendous.
Can I give a noticeable shout out for a player from the Saracens team who I think is going places? Theo Dan. I like how he
good
plays.
player. Can I just say, I think one of the potential best in show were in the squad. I don't think he was even on the bench, but Sam Hill. That is a good looking man.
Yeah,
and in great nick.
Yeah, he is in good nick.
I reckon he'll go to America next season
and clean up.
Yes, and that as well.
And then go to be Gloucester's defence coach in a few years' time.
Exactly.
Yeah. But one of the best emails we've had in a while. This is from Jimmy JD. He says, "EggChasers pod blah." During the Six Nations games this weekend, this is last weekend he sent this one, I turned to ChatGPT as a shortcut to help explain some rugby laws. And it turned out it was a great way to whittle away half-time and the hour before the second game on Saturday. It's a bit hit and miss, but you might enjoy. So this first one, what Jimmy did is he typed in, it's a ChatGPT. Have you tried this thing?
So I've never tried it, but I'm well aware of how it works.
JD wrote into ChatGPT. In rugby, can you explain the offside rule, but change the word ball to egg and teammates to EggChasers in a rap style?
In a rap style, wow.
And it came up with, let me just sort of get...
Are you going to rap, Tim?
Oh, kind of. I don't know if I'm going to...
Wow.
Let me just...
That would be this would definitely be a first for us.
What's going on here? No.
What is going on here?
No, I'm not really... Oh, never mind. I never mind, doesn't matter. So what ChatGPT came up with is, listen up, y'all, I'm about to explain the offside rule in rugby. It's not so plain. When you're playing with eggs and you've got your crew, the EggChasers got to know what to do. You can't be in front when the egg is passed, or else the ref will blow the whistle real fast. Offside, you're out of line. You've got to stay behind and give yourself time to move forward and chase the egg. Until then, stay put, don't make a beg. If an opponent's in front, it's all good. You're back on side doing what you should. So there you have it, the offside rule in rugby with eggs and the EggChasers in the school. Stay behind your crew when the egg gets passed and you'll be playing by the rules, so that's a blast.
Wow. That's quite something.
And a computer came up with that in about 5 seconds.
Wow.
It's some of the stuff...
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible, but it's also... It's like, we were talking the other week about when you see an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old player and you're thinking not what they are right now, but what they can be in 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. That's because that's impressive. But it's really a party trick.
Yeah.
But it's the trajectory that we're
100%.
on with
The deep fake stuff, those videos of Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson talking about Mario Brothers. Absolutely hilarious.
Funny you mention this because I was listening to a podcast. It's a really good podcast. It's called the All In Podcast. And it's basically a bunch of tech bros talking about and venture capitalist types who are talking about raising money for AI. And their view is AI is great, but they've got a San Francisco gold rush theory about it, which is it wasn't the people planning for gold that made the money, it was the people that made the shovels. And whoever comes up with the infrastructure for this thing is going to make an absolute fortune. The money getting thrown at it
that rap was only a little tee up for the main event.
What? There's more.
So JD knows how much, obviously, you have talked about and you've already done it on this podcast, the head injury protocol.
Yep.
And also how much you love boats.
I do love boats,
boats. So he said into ChatGPT, can you explain the rugby HIA protocol, but use as many references to boats and boat ownership as possible?
This is incredible.
So ChatGPT replied, sure, I'll give it a go. In rugby, the head injury assessment protocol is a process used to evaluate players who may have suffered a head injury during a match. It's like when a boat owner takes their vessel out on the water and checks for any damage or potential hazards before setting sail. If a player on the field is suspected of having a head injury, they must immediately leave the game and be assessed by a medical professional on the sideline. This is like how a boat owner would immediately return to shore if they notice any issues with their vessel.
So true.
It goes on and goes on. If a player passes the initial assessment, they may be allowed to return to the game. However, if they fail, they must undergo a more comprehensive evaluation, which is like how a boat owner might need to take their vessel to a professional for a more in-depth inspection, and it goes on and on. But it's I'm going to have a lot of fun with this.
It certainly made me take the head injury assessment much more seriously. That.
Yeah. 'Cause you think,
and now I'm thinking nautically.
Yeah. So you imagine you being out at sea and you notice an issue with your boat. You're not taking any chances. You're going straight back to shore.
I
Aren't
am
you?
just going straight back to shore.
So this is an invitation. Please get busy on ChatGPT, and what rugby-based stuff can you imagine and then come up with and then share with us via contact@eggchasers@gmail.com that we could then put out on future podcasts, please.
So,
Incredible.
which team this week, Tim, had a player who received their 250th appearance?
Was it Didsbury Talk H?
It was not Didsbury Talk H. They also had a draw.
Oh. Fylde and Sedgley Tigers.
Fylde and Sedgley Tigers. And do you know who the player was who got the 250th appearance?
Riley's probably more than that.
Yeah,
isn't
Matthew
he?
Riley.
The one.
Andy Riley. Andy Riley
Got himself his 250th
Fair play.
50th appearance cap.
Good work. Sedgley through and through with a little bit of Widnes mixed in for those boys.
Yeah.
Two good lads, good players.
What does it draw mean? Just basically as you were then?
Yeah, it's better for Sedgley. If you have finishing first and being promoted as the primary objective of both teams, then the draw is better for Sedgley.
Yeah.
It works more in Sedgley's favour. 19-all draw.
Great game. Marlow absolutely wiped the floor with Gosforth.
Yeah, but the Marlow
70 points to 3.
Sadly, the Marlow kids didn't do too well, though, did they? Got absolutely slammed this morning by Aylesbury.
Well,
Go on, Aylesbury.
Yeah,
good lads.
It was Aylesbury something. I got a score through. Aylesbury something. Tim's boys 5.
Aylesbury a lot.
Talk H had a regulation win.
Yeah, we did, but everyone had a regulation win. So Tarleton got their 5 points. LSH got 5 points. Widnes got 5 points. We got 5 points. It's basically as you were.
So it's as you were with now 2 games for Didsbury, 3 games for Tarleton and LSH.
Yeah. So
and one of those they play each other.
Yeah. So next week, Widnes play LSH. Huge game. Widnes are scoring points for fun at the moment. If the best Widnes team shows up, there's going to be points scored. There's going to be lots of points scored. Then Tarleton play LSH. And we've got to play West Park, starring Paul Arnold and Maurice
Far-Savalou.
Is it Far-Savalou?
Far-Savalou.
Yeah. Anyway, apparently some of the boys have been telling Maurice that I called him soft on the podcast. I want to be absolutely clear. I never said that.
Who's your last game at home? That's
Sefton.
It's quite a winnable game. You said that. You told us off the pod that's going to be a walkover. No,
I did not say that. I did not say that. These two are hard
But
games.
it's worth mentioning that because that's an open invite. If you are anywhere in the Manchester area or would like to be or can be or fancy it, Phil and I are going to be watching, quite possibly, JB's last game of rugby, and also watching Super Saturday at Didsbury Talk H.
It's going to be a good day, that.
Before going down Didsbury High
and it's an early
Street
kick-off. They've got they're asking for the early kick-off.
Yes!
So we get all the rugby.
Maybe not quite. It depends how early, because the first game...
9:30.
Yeah, that would give us all the...
Midday, that'd be all right.
Scotland-Italy kicks off at 12:30.
What?
Yeah, so we'd get the... Well, Scotland-Italy.
Yeah.
Oh, who cares about Scotland-Italy? That's fine. Well, I'm
actually,
very interested in that game.
I think it would be quite an interesting game. But anyway, I'd much prefer...
Scotland lost yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
France.
They just
lost to
France.
Yeah.
They could get the Triple Crown, though.
But that's all
on the international pod.
Next pod.
So, yes, we will be doing Super Saturday at Didsbury Talk H, potentially JB's last game. Phil and I may commentate on it. Perhaps not stream, but perhaps record the commentary live, put it to the footage, and then release it.
You could do that.
Subsequently.
Our VO should be up.
Yeah.
I'll get a lot of YouTube watches.
Yeah. So we're looking into. So anyway, come along, have a beer.
Brilliant.
Down Disbury High Street into town after.
I think
Mojo's.
So. I would imagine so.
I haven't been to Mojo's in years.
Well,
you're there almost every weekend, aren't you, GB?
Regular, yeah. Where's this weekend? Hale and I go this weekend.
Steve Diamond patch.
Yeah. I went to Canal Street on Friday night.
Nice.
So I did the CrossFit Open. Went for a few beers. I took the week off rugby because I knew I was going to be hungover the next day. So CrossFit Open, beers, into town, and then into Canal Street. It was absolutely brilliant.
Bouncing.
It was bouncing. It was absolutely rammed.
Yeah.
Always good fun. Always a good night. Canal Street.
It is.
Right. Do we want to do... So, the two other televised Premiership games, for one reason or another, were one-sided affairs.
Yeah, let's talk Friday night, affairs. Bristol. Right, I want to know, right, how Bristol absolutely spanking the lifeless corpse that was Northampton Saints is evidence that Pat Lam is beyond his sell-by date, past it, and a busted flush, JB.
One word. Charles Piatow.
Now,
Charles Piatow was a different level.
Ridiculous.
There is no other coach on the planet who could coach Charles Piatow to be to see the game that intuitively, to react to what's in front of him like that. No other coach on the planet could get the best out of him. I thought
this, look, Pat Lam spending £1 million on Charles Piatow. Could I spend £1 million on? Could I spend £1 million of someone else's money on Charles Piatow?
Steve Lansdown's money.
Yeah, I think I could.
Yeah, on one of the best players in the world.
I think I could do that. But it's funny, I was watching Piatow the problem with Piatow, it's not a problem, but something which has happened maybe the last 6 months, is he's just not been that present. Injuries or he's just not been around. And because he's not been around, I've kind of started to think, is this guy declining? Is he not winning his place? So to see him come back and do that, you're just reminded this is one of the world's premier players. He just is. Yeah. He's just incredible.
Well, with Semi in that back line as well.
Let's not talk about him. He wasn't very good. He just runs sideways, and everyone goes, "Oh, do you see that? Do you see that?" Yeah, we saw it. He ran sideways.
That was an incredible team performance, and I mean, Northampton were woeful in lots of respects, but they were third in the table. You have to take it on its merit, and Bristol have backed up results now. I said that.
Do you not think that I was watching Bristol, and I know we're going to say it's a good team result, and there's some nice team tries, but when Piatow's on the field and doing his magic, it does lead to other people thinking that they can do Piatow stuff. And I wonder, when he's not there and they still think they can do Piatow stuff, that probably does unstitch them a bit, because nobody can do it.
Yeah.
Nobody can do it.
There is almost no one on the planet who can play like him.
That little kick to Randall was one of the finest bits of skill I have seen.
But to get to that point as well, the pirouette, the beat three players, the accelerate, the hitch kick, and then just as everyone draws in, he's finally going to get shut down. No, he's not.
Yeah, it was
I think there's a few things. I think pinning it all on Charles Piatow is
it's unfair to other players.
It's unfair to other players in the team. I think you've got now Lago's come back and he's now settled in. Yeah. Randrandra's back and he's settled in. And
Randall was quality.
Randall's good, and McGinty is the first choice number 10 now and settled.
I don't think he played well. I do not think he played well.
How did any Bristol player not play
well
McGinty
in a
just give it to the boys? McGinty just let the boys run.
Because sometimes it was a bit loose, and you think, like, if you didn't have that world-class talent picking the ball up, going backwards, and then sorting it out, you might be in a bit of bother here. So some of McGinty's passing wasn't spot
equally
on.
If you had that world-class talent and you didn't get the ball in their hands as quickly as you could,
it'd be criminal.
Then it'd be criminal. So he's
but it's not as quickly as you can when you throw it on the floor and he's got to turn around and pick it up. So they all played well. I thought you were going to reference the front row, actually, because I thought that's where Bristol had a lot of success. So when you're running the ball around with as much abandon as Piatow is, you do forget that the front row are busy up front winning penalties at scrum time. And that was impressive. And, of course, it's not just impressive. It's absolutely key.
Especially when they're your second choice props.
Yeah.
They're not your starting props.
They're not Genge and Sinclair. So it's like, you add Genge and Sinclair to that Bristol team, they look the absolute business.
I wouldn't start Genge and Sinclair. I'd bring them off the bench.
That's not a bad tactic, like the bomb squad.
There was no Luatua in that as well, because he was... Why was Luatua not there?
I heard it was his birthday last week.
He was on the. He came off the bench, didn't he?
Yeah.
He came off the bench, right?
He did play well.
No, but he didn't play last week because
Yes.
we'd heard it was his birthday, but I think it was his. Was
it Stag?
Was it? I can't-
Something happened which is unacceptable to miss a game for.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not acceptable to have either a birthday or a wedding stag do.
It's not.
During the season.
No. Not even the amateur rugby you do that.
Absolutely.
Let alone pro.
Although
rugby.
JB, we did play with a player who once missed a game because it landed on Valentine's Day, and he went to watch 50 Shades of Grey with his girlfriend at the cinema,
Quite astonishing.
and he
isn't it?
never lived it down.
Disgrace.
I once played with a guy at Colwyn Bay who quit because he took up playing the drums, and he said he didn't want to risk having his wrists shattered. Like, what?
No,
I've never seen it.
Golden wrists. Platinum wrists.
That's obviously ridiculous. However, I was having this very same conversation last night when a couple of the lads were like, "Oh, would you come and play for the twos for Broughton Park or whatever?" I was like, "Well, yeah. If you need numbers, I'll turn out, but I don't want to get a little injury and miss 2 weeks of CrossFit."
No. Well, just don't get injured. It's easy way to do it.
Well, I'm now, what are we, 2 and a bit months post Sedgley Vets game.
That's crazy, that is.
And my ankle is... So I had a steroid injection into it 2 weeks ago. It is not right. It is
mate.
bad.
I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
Well, so
You should have just taken JB's advice and not got injured.
Yeah.
Why didn't you think of that?
Why did you do it?
The one thing...
What's in it for you?
I was reading back through the report, the MRI report on that right ankle, and it reads like if you took a 50-year-old Skoda for an MOT, that's what it's like, a 3-page report into all of the current and historic damage to that ankle. Yeah, everything in my right ankle is
Just
gone.
Just chop it off from the
Gone.
knee down.
Yeah.
mate.
My amputation might be the only way.
I had to lie to a doctor once in order to get a scan.
Really?
Yeah, so I went to the GP. I had a shoulder niggle. And it was with me for like 6 months. Oh, Christ, I'll just go to the doctors. Maybe there's something wrong with it. Maybe this is how people get shoulder replacements. It starts with niggle and, you know. So I went there. He told me to lift up my arms. I lifted up my arms. I felt like a little impingement. And
I've had that for about 4 months. On the front of my rotator cuff.
yeah, that's the one.
CrossFit.
It is. I'm not even joking. I love CrossFit, but it is from CrossFit doing those stupid pull-ups.
It's definitely not. It's definitely from rugby. It's 100% from rugby, right? So he said, "Yeah, you play rugby?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." And how old are you? I was 32 or something. He goes, "Yeah, you should retire." And I just said, I was like, "Hang on a minute. You want me to give up one of the most important things that I do?" So I just said, "Yeah, but you know I get paid a lot of money to play, right?" And they said, "Right, well, in that case, we'll order you up a MRI and
I've done that.
An
Well, because
ultrasound.
I used to get I did get money, but it was not big money at Manchester or Newbury. It was like 50 quid a game.
Yeah.
But obviously I did that. I bigged it up a little bit. Like I earn money from rugby, and we'll put you front of the queue and get you in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which wasn't I wasn't lying.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
gonna
lying.
make the most of it.
If they'd have asked me how much to get paid, then I'd have said none of your business.
How dare you?
Yeah. But Bristol are now in 9th place in the table, so they haven't improved their league position. However, they are 7 points off 4th.
Yeah, the 2 points
with a game in hand over 4th and 5th.
Yeah, 2 points off Exeter, 3 points off Gloucester, and 3 points off Harlequins. But then all of those teams have got 1 game in hand over all of the top 5 teams. Irish, Saints, Tigers.
But Bristol play
Sharp.
Quins next, and then they play Leicester away, and then they play Sale at home, and then they play Exeter away, and then they play Gloucester at home. So
Yeah.
Playing all
is-
the guys above them.
on the one
Well,
hand,
everyone is pretty much above them.
Yes, yeah.
But I mean, on the one hand, that looks like a brutal schedule. On the other hand, if they have a really strong run to the end of the season and beat all of those teams, they will probably get top 4.
Well, they're all 6-pointers in old football parlance. Because you beat Exeter, you overtake them. You beat Gloucester, you overtake them. You beat Quins, you overtake them. You beat Leicester at that point, you overtake them.
And I'm not joking. With all those players fit and Genge and Sinclair available,
It's possible.
Well, look,
If you were betting now,
no.
yeah, I would also say no. But I think they can trouble anyone.
they've got a good first team. So, when you look at everyone in the Premiership, you look at their absolute best 15, they're all pretty good.
Bristol haven't had that all season.
Yeah, but I guess that's my next point, which is nobody has it all season. So look at the Saracens versus Sale team, or look at, say, Exeter.
That's a little bit different because that's an international window.
Yeah, or like, Leicester lose a lot of players. Now, you have those players. Courtney Law's at Northampton. So you've got these players. Now, when you get to the playoffs, that's when you see all of the Rolls-Royce stars. So I think if they did get to the playoffs, they would be dangerous. But anyone would be dangerous. It's a complete lottery. Where they've let themselves down is just not having a deep enough or consistent enough squad, which is why they are where they are.
Well, depends on how they finish. If they have everyone available and go on and get top 4, then
that would be impressive.
Then
that would be very
even
impressive.
I think that would be impressive.
Yeah. And it's one of the things when they finish top of the table, they would get in the best out of the lesser guys, whereas more recently the lesser guys haven't been doing as much.
I think there's sort of an element of that, isn't there?
I don't know, lesser guys is the wrong phrase.
Yeah,
but
well,
you know what I mean. The not Sir Charles and not the guys who are on less money.
When you have guys all competing to be in that team, they all start sort of contributing because you're not leaning on them. You're not depending on them. So this is like there's this competition to join the superstars. The Bristol situation at the moment is a bit different, which is they are actually depending on these guys to carry the team, waiting for the superstars to return. I just think there's a different dynamic to that and a different pressure. So, I mean, they could do because they've got a lot of good players. But on the other hand, what a perfect matchup for them playing Northampton. Northampton don't defend at the best times anyway. They're not a hard team.
They're missing their hard
loads of players.
Yeah, they're missing their hard guys.
Yeah. So you add all those things up. And
Hold on. Northampton beat Gloucester and Sale in their last 2 games.
Because they can score points.
So what I'm saying is you can't just treat this game in isolation. Oh, it's a perfect game playing Northampton. Well,
I think
Gloucester and Sale played them and lost.
I think you can treat almost every game in the Premiership in isolation because there's such distinct styles within the league. So you can look at this Bristol team and say, what were they doing against Sale? I think Sale would absolutely smash them because the style that they play suits playing against Northampton. Whereas, like Northampton, when they are scoring loads of points and they're on fire, they can tear apart anyone, including Sale and probably including Saracens and Exeter. So, it's a style. So I actually think I disagree with you. I think almost every game in the Premiership can be looked at in isolation, with the exception of people like Bath, who are talented.
Although that does just allow you to always paint Bristol, whichever team you want to, in whichever light you choose.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yes, it definitely does. Can't draw any links from anything to anything.
But we definitely know, don't we, that Northampton do concede a lot of points.
They do, but I think it's a good point.
And they do score a lot of points.
I think it's a very good point, Tim, that if Northampton have beaten Sale and Gloucester, you would ordinarily... Like, Sale and Gloucester are bad matchups for Northampton, traditionally.
Yeah.
Like, they are big, physical, aggressive teams who pride themselves on that. So for Northampton to beat them, take one thing from that.
I guess Northampton just aren't... No, is it?
Both of those games were at home.
It was a poor...
Although Saints did beat Leicester away, so...
Northampton were...
The Leicester away, I was looking at that result, that is an important result. The Leicester away result for Northampton is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
This will be one that hopefully Northampton can use it as a reset and then build back. Because they're still in the top 4. They have played one game more than some of the people chasing them. But do I want Northampton to be in the playoffs?
Yeah.
To get a beat down from Saracens.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I know they beat Sale recently, as we've just discussed. I don't think that if they go away to either Saracens or Sale with all the stars that Northampton get
their remaining fixtures, they'll be looking at it very favourably, thinking that top 4 should be theirs. Bath at home, Irish away, Saracens at home, Newcastle away.
Yeah, they've done a lot of the hard yards.
Yeah,
but I don't think they can. So if you're looking at the teams from 3rd down to, let's include Bristol in 9th. Who are the 2 that could trouble Saracens and Sale most?
Quins.
Quins and Leicester, I think.
Quins and Leicester, probably.
Leicester 100%.
And then Irish and Gloucester on their day.
Anyone can on their day, but I think those 2 are the 2 who would
Gloucester
give them
did get
trouble.
a win against them last season.
You can't read anything into that. That's just a one-off game.
That's a very good
No,
point.
but,
Seb.
but you can with the same two teams.
Yeah, no, I
Same
understand.
two teams.
I do understand.
So-
I was being facetious.
I would say the thing about Saracens, though, is when they do get everybody back. I mean, in the playoffs, full-strength teams, they do absolutely formidable.
So I've just talked myself into supporting Leicester and Quins to get the last two.
To make the
top
semi-finals
four,
really interesting.
to make them tasty.
So I actually think that my two teams I'd like to see probably be Northampton, because I think they play lovely rugby.
They do play lovely rugby.
Yeah, that's the whole point, isn't it? I don't mind lovely rugby, so long as it's against a horrendously physical and violent backdrop. So if you want to try that against Saracens, be my guest, and if it works, more power to you. But it shouldn't be engineered so everyone has to play it.
Leicester have
London Irish are the other ones.
got one more away game. And that's it. They play Gloucester away next weekend.
Yep.
And then everything else at home.
Everything else is at home. Bristol at home, Edinburgh at home, Exeter at home, Quins at home.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's a good run,
that's
that, isn't
handy.
it?
And they've just moved up into third.
Do you not think London Irish would be a really good matchup in the semis?
Oh, with,
I like Irish.
with Arundel and OHC,
Just everyone.
everyone
Unloader,
balling.
Jancy van Rensburg,
Yeah.
and Tom
Notorious
Pearson.
Englishman.
Tom Pearson is a beast. I'm
really
convinced.
big fan of Tom Pearson.
I can only think. I watched Tom Pearson play, and I watched Val Rapava Ruskin play for Gloucester, and I can only think the only reason they're not in the England squad is because Steve Borthwick couldn't put them in the England squad. Because Tom Pearson, I'm telling you, he's going to the World Cup.
It's a matter of time, isn't it?
Tom Pearson is
Yeah.
going to the World Cup.
It's just what you do.
He's a beast.
He's
One of those guys,
he is class.
Pearson, Willis, Curry, one of those sort of like big sevens that England have now, that one of them will take to international rugby even better than the other two.
Well,
I don't know who the one is.
Look at Ludlam, because he's in the same mould.
I do think Ludlam's going to nail down the six.
Yeah, I think he's playing absolutely
And then
quality
it's going to be
rugby.
one shirt.
What would you call it? Because I think we should have 3 sevens, but that could also play 6 and 8. So what would they be? Because it wouldn't be
7.5. Well,
it wouldn't be 7. It would be sevens, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because 7 is the
6.5 and
midpoint
8.
between
6 and 8. We need a good
They're
name.
like- it's like they're like 7 pluses.
Yeah.
They're 7. They do everything that 7 does, but they do more as well. Just more in every dimension.
Well, it's modern day back rows, aren't they? They're sort of the general practitioners of the back of the back row world. They do everything.
Yeah, we need a new name for the potential England trio. Although Zach Mercer. Oh yeah, we talk international. pod.
we
International pod.
keep getting drawn into it.
So yeah, Leicester had a convincing win.
Yes, against Bath.
Did you see the very smart try scored by Harry Wells?
Yes,
Yes, I did see that.
Fair play.
When
Kick
Leicester
charged down.
Leicester kicked. Bath tried to charge it down, got a fingertip to it. Referee shouted touched, and I can't remember which player it was. Matt Scott
Yes.
caught the ball.
Caught the ball, so it was a 22 clearance. He catches it on Bath's
their
10-metre
10-metre line,
and it's just a 2-on-1 with the fullback.
Amazing, that, isn't it?
Great
Amazing
knowledge.
thinking.
Great knowledge.
Yeah.
So, someone
Awareness.
in the rugby community, rugby fraternity, said, "A lesson there. That's why you don't touch the ball in flight." No, it's not. No, it's not. You do try and charge down rugby balls all of the time.
Yeah, because for every one of those, you've got a dozen examples of charge downs leading to a try to the defending team.
The chances of Matt Scott being 30 yards up the field,
Exactly where
so you
it
don't
bounces.
attempt the charge down. That's
And no
nuts.
one being around him, and
Yeah. Just a perfect engineered.
Kids, don't listen to
2-on-1.
that advice.
The flip side, that was really cool. I tried on Friday to pick up Alfie Barbary on Fantasy Rugby Draft waiver wire. Phil managed to get him.
How do you do, guys?
He went off injured.
I know. Probably the end of the season.
Yeah, well, so
Talking about like England back rows.
from what I've read, Johan van Graan's not been specific, but said it's something bad between the knee and the ankle. Which there's just 2 bones and a muscle between the knee and the ankle.
Well, let's hope it's not
That
too
guy
bad.
never gets a break.
No, he's looking like, just in terms of his aesthetics. God, he's just such a rugby shape. He's just big where you want him to be, small where you want him to be. He's just such a strong looking boy.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I wonder what the future holds for him, because he needs to start playing well and he needs to start playing
He's
very
stopped playing.
soon.
Yeah, he's played saw something 20-something games in 4 years from debut.
Jeez, it's not enough, is it?
It's definitely not enough.
Not enough.
And he feels a bit Will Addison-y, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because he goes so hard. He has one speed, it's 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And
well, it's no coincidence, is it, that him and Underhill come off simultaneously. I mean, they're both so abrasive the way that
They only play that way.
I think he needs. I don't know. It's a tough one because I wouldn't. They've signed him on a long-term deal, haven't they?
Have they?
But it's like if he was out on the open market now, and fit, like coming back from his next injury and on the open market, it's just the track record is such that you just could not spend on that guy. And it's such a shame because there's so much talent.
But look how many times Manu, he's not been picked up. He was paid for many, many years by Leicester, who had all of the data and hardly ever played.
He still did it. Well, that's why I need.
But he's so addictive. He's just so delicious when he does it.
Well, that's exactly why you need to get some good recruiters in, like Leicester did.
Yes,
and hopefully they won't have that problem again.
The couple of other things from this game.
Yep.
Montoya is such a good player.
Different.
He's so good.
He is world class.
Yeah.
Maybe the best hooker in the world. Or certainly
him and Marchand's not been as good as he normally is, but he's still incredible. Marchand, Montoya, and Marks are the three best.
Yeah, with Dan Sheehan coming up fast, but he's a bit too inexperienced now,
and he's not in the league of those three yet.
Yeah,
but he could be.
He's awesome.
Very different type of player as well.
One other thing, did you see the Ben Spencer try?
No.
So Ben Spencer, I can't remember what led to it, but gets a break. One-on-one with Ben Youngs, just gasses Ben Youngs. Ben Youngs is lay on the floor and Ben Spencer scorches him for a try. And it kind of makes you think, why has Ben Spencer not got 100 caps?
Well, you know why. I told you why. You don't listen to me. It must. I mean,
such a shame.
How is it? What was Owen Farrell saying to Eddie Jones? I mean, does Eddie Jones respect Owen Farrell's opinion?
Who knows?
Well, would you say?
Yes.
So he's probably one of the most important voices as to the selection of the scrum half. Would you say?
I think that's likely.
And do you think he batted hard for Ben Spencer?
I think he should have done.
He didn't, though, did he? He mustn't have. Why does Owen Farrell hate Ben Spencer? We'll never get to see.
Maybe one day we will. Maybe one day.
He doesn't rate him. Can't rate him.
You remember when...
Do you reckon he's going to Eddie? You got to go with... I mean, look, I like Ben. Ben Spencer. You got to go with Youngsy.
Do you remember when... which was it on the Good, the Bad and the Rugby? One of those grassroots pods.
Yeah.
When Sam Burgess went on talking about 2015 and the disaster that it was and threw a load of people under the bus. We might get that from Owen Farrell.
One day.
Or Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones blames Owen Farrell for him losing his job because he wasn't allowed to pick Ben Spencer.
I'd love either Owen Farrell or Eddie Jones just to go wild on an interview.
It would be good.
It'll never be Owen Farrell.
It will never be. But that's
chance.
why Owen Farrell would be so much more interesting. Actually,
there is zero chance of it being Owen Farrell. Eddie, maybe.
Yeah.
And the one other thing for this game, I know it's against Bath, who are not the best team in the league. Well, they're quite the opposite.
Would you say they're getting better?
No, but Andre Pollard looking good, looking like
very good,
a marquee signing.
Yes, thank God for that. Thank God for that, because I really wasn't sure that this was going to work out.
Yeah, no, looks a very good signing.
Well, he should be for the amount of money.
He certainly should be. It is interesting that I will talk about it on the other pod, but the Borthwick's first choice, the choice that he went for is the international fly half other than Owen Farrell, who's most like Owen Farrell, when he could pick anyone.
Correct.
That is an interesting observation that we will talk about in more detail on the other pod.
Yeah. Right, just two bits of Twitter nonsense. Do you want to talk some Twitter?
Well, just firstly, I just want to say Nola Gold got beaten again. They're 0-3 in Major League Rugby. However, the Rugby Network is showing every game of Major League Rugby. The season is now into its third week. I'm going to read out the cities, and just hypothetically, if we were going to go and take the podcast to one of these cities, which would it be? So we got Atlanta.
Dubai. Is Dubai on there?
Yeah, you got
dealers.
You got New York, the Iron Workers.
No, I'm not. I don't want to go back to New York. I'd rather do somewhere else before New York again.
Got Atlanta, you're ruling out New York.
Atlanta would be cool.
Washington, D.C., where Old Glory play.
Less interested.
Less so.
That's a cool name, Old Glory.
Yeah. New England Free Jacks, I assume that's Boston.
Yeah.
Could be talking there. Toronto Arrows.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Nola Gold in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah, I quite fancy New Orleans. Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
Great kit as well, Nola Gold have got.
Cool.
Seattle on the West Coast.
Long journey.
It's a bit like the America's answer to America. Seattle and Manchester are very similar. Like West Coast, loads of rain, musical city. It's like it'd be
loads of tech,
coffee scene,
scene.
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah, would be interested in Houston.
San Diego.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's nothing in San Diego though.
It's
military bases.
It's fun. Loads of military bases and conferences. Utah Warriors playing a little tiny town called Herringham or something like that. So
okay,
not in Salt Lake.
Salt Lake, I suppose. Chicago Hounds.
Now Chicago, I am interested.
I could do that.
And Dallas.
Nice.
Dallas, yeah, again interested.
Dallas, Chicago, I'm interested in. Dallas and Chicago, New Orleans, Boston.
Yeah, I'm actually going to Boston in September.
Are you?
Yeah.
Not quiet.
Yeah. Weirdly, during the World Cup, the two things just coincided.
Oh, do you know what?
So I'll be watching a bit of it from.
Just very, very briefly on that, because I'm looking at the World Cup. I'm just doing the whole. I'm doing the whole.
Are you?
Because it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every weekend. I think one of the middle weekends I'm not interested in doing any, but I'm just gonna go all in because I've never done a Lions tour and I've never done a World Cup.
Yep. I've done a Lions tour,
and I'm just.
I've done a World Cup actually.
I'm just going all in.
So have you got any tickets, or are you just going through accreditation?
I'm hoping to get. It's a kind of build it and they will come kind of thing. I'm going to kind of plan to be there, and then hopefully as a result we'll get some work.
Yes.
That might.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so exciting when you go.
Just avoid Marseille. Go to
some of the great games in Marseille.
Aix-en-Provence.
Aix-en-Provence. Well, that's what I thought. You can go into Marseille for the games and then head back out to Aix-en-Provence.
Yes. Yeah, Provence is a nice part of the world.
Twitter, JB, your favourite place. Go on, Phil.
Can we do, just before that, didn't really cover Quins versus Exeter.
Really good performance for Quins.
Come back to that.
Big one-sided game.
Yeah.
Interesting that first half, the Bristol first half was incredibly one-sided. The Quins was even more one-sided, especially considering Quins had the first yellow card, the Josh Bassett yellow card, which they got one try, and then the Sam Skinner, Harvey Skinner.
Both your fancy rugby draft players.
Yes, and I had a red card in the Saracens
and
game.
All those cards combined cost you your week.
Not well. You still would have beaten me, even if I hadn't have had those cards, but it would have been a lot closer. But yeah, Quins were just. I mean, Exeter hardly fired a shot in that first half. They couldn't get the ball, couldn't get territory, and Quins, they were like the opposite of Exeter. I say Exeter didn't have any ball. They actually had a lot of ball, they just didn't do anything with it. They played 15 phases and went nowhere. Whereas Quins, they only need 2 or 3 phases. Triton is so clinical.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so dangerous.
Yeah, and they do it from broken field play, they do it from set pieces, they do it from line-up. They just when they're firing, and this was a very strong Harlequins team.
It was I was looking at both the packs actually, and both the packs on paper look fairly evenly matched.
Yeah.
What I like about the Harlequins pack in particular is the ball carriers in the back row. So Lauday can carry, Kenningham can carry, and who's the other one?
Chisholm.
They absolutely love him. He gives them a lot of utility. So it comes down to the danger of what Harlequins can do. I do think there's an element of rugby starting to reinvent itself again with this sort of attacking play, because for the longest time, if you weren't just defending and set piecing in the Premiership, you hadn't got a hope. So there's more and more teams now following the Harlequins model. Bristol, I guess, and Northampton.
Harlequins, they've got the foundations to be able to do it as well.
Yes.
They've now, from a few years ago, they went and they've got a very, very good set piece.
They have.
And I did think it was interesting, the Quins selections, two things. They went for a bigger back row, like putting Will Evans, who would ordinarily be starting open side. They went for a big back row.
Yeah.
With James Chisholm is a lot bigger than Will Evans.
A lot bigger.
Open
So is
side.
Kenningham. So Kenningham would be...
Kenningham's much taller as well.
Yeah, Kenningham, bang. Awesome.
And so I read that as they did that to counteract Exeter, and they went for a 6-2 split on the bench again to counteract Exeter. And I mean, it worked perfectly, but I do find it interesting that teams. When I read that selection, I thought they're focusing more on Exeter than they were on themselves.
Yeah.
Which they might have been, and it worked perfectly, or they might have just been.
So have they got 2 wins over Exeter now? No, I'm trying to think.
Oh no, it was.
I just remember it being absolutely wild, and Chun's thing at the end with the forward. Was that an Exeter try at the end?
I think that was an Exeter try at the end.
Yeah, so Exeter won at home.
Win. Yeah, because Quins went up, Quins went 27-0 up or something.
That's something like that
at Sandy Park.
Something happened. Something happened. It was a great game. Chun's did something out wide. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. And we've not mentioned the Falcons London Irish.
Wasn't on telly, didn't see it.
Yeah, I was at Saracens Sale. It was a handy 5-point win for London Irish.
Yeah.
And we did mention Tom Pearson, who we all love.
Twitter's favourite, JB's favourite cesspit Twitter. Or what's going on?
And Twitter's favourite cesspit, JB.
So the morons are at it again. 2 stories that really got me. One was Danny Cares. So Danny Care tweeted about non-competitive sport for kids, which has a range of views. I'm not even sure I can be bothered talking about it now, which is terrible for a podcaster. And the other one is the Audi Surveyor throat slit. Which one do you want to talk about? Both or just one of them?
Let's do them in succession. Go on.
I'd rather do more of the latter.
Yeah. Let's do Audi Surveyor first.
Okay, yeah, keep the other one brief.
So Audi Surveyor does something, gets a yellow card, and does the throat slit, right? Now, I don't know if these geniuses who... Well, there is...
I've been doing lip reading, and he was saying to his opposition player, I really liked your wife's necklace.
Yeah. Smile more. So there's been some wild things said about this. Throat slit adjuster means he should be banned. Criminal charges should be brought.
I did see someone said
criminal charges
bordering on criminal charges.
Bordering on criminal charges.
I hope that person never gets in any sort of position of power or influence, because that is frightening.
I just wish that. So it goes against all of my libertarian leanings, and I don't really want to control anyone, but I do sometimes wish that if we had like a rugby license, which you needed to talk about the game, we could just revoke it from people who say things like that.
You want to cancel culture?
Just cancel them all. Yeah. These are the people that deserve to be cancelled. It's very different if you deserve it.
No,
what they call it,
I'd rather they said it, so I know exactly. So I know exactly what that person thinks. So
that's a much better way to do it.
I can frame every other opinion they have and hang it on the. Oh right, yeah, you're the guy that would consider throwing R.D. Surveyor in prison for doing a throat slit symbol.
I tell you what worked remarkably well. I did once as a bit of a wind up. Is I started a Twitter list called woke rugby nonsense, and I started putting just accounts on woke rugby nonsense, and people melted down
because you can see when you're added to a list, can't you?
So yeah, I might start up another Twitter list for things like this. So,
but to be clear, he has been cited for this.
Has he? Because he gave an apology straight after the game.
Yeah, unsportsmanlike. It's basically unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, it is unsportsmanlike conduct.
I guess it is. It would be like excessively shaking your head and throwing your hands up when you went off for a yellow card. That would be disrespectful to the referee.
So if there is if he gets cited, fine. What I would hope the outcome of the citing would be, that in itself is probably a yellow card offence.
Yeah.
So you'd have no further consequence. Yeah, just a slap on the wrist. Probably don't do it again. Crack on.
Yeah. I can't bear the idea that it's simultaneously okay. So this is the position of a lot of people like, oh, I think it's fine, but you've got to remember there's cameras out there. What about the optics? I think, isn't it the time we start holding people accountable for caring about the optics? I don't want to live in a society where we have to bend the knee to the optics. And if we do, then we need to be saying...
There's kids watching, JB.
If kids can't deal with this, don't watch.
No, what I quite like John Cooney's take on this, which is just... before you get too carried away with that little thing that Ardy Surveyor did, why don't we just consider the fact that it's within the context of a physical game where 100 plus kilo fellas are trying to physically hurt each other for 80 minutes. Maybe one little hand signal, don't worry. They were just smashing 7 bells out of each other.
So if you get into a fight on the street, right, like a proper nasty fight, and the intention of both men
outside a club in
wherever it is, right? You get into a proper nasty
somewhere
fight.
Abroad on a weekend away.
Something, right? And the intention of both men is to do as much damage to each other as they possibly can. This is what they want to do. They want to win the fight, and they want to do so by really winning the fight. So we know where we're at here. Now, that if you just add like a word to that altercation, it's not as much as the wrong word in the process of actually trying to kill your opponents, it then becomes it goes from being a crime to a more serious hate crime. And I just can't understand that, because the purpose of it it's pretty hateful anyway. You want to smash the other guy into pieces. And I kind of think this is like the same thing. Like, he wants to end this guy. Now, does he want to kill him? No, he doesn't.
And if you were that opponent that Ardy Surveyor made that signal to, I'd be giggling, thinking like, see ya, enjoy your next 10 minutes, mate.
Yeah. It pumps you up.
Yeah.
Massively.
I would find that hilarious. If someone else me, I'd find it hilarious.
No,
I couldn't wait for him to get back. I mean, it's not Ardy Surveyor in my case, right? But if I'm also a pro athlete, brilliant. Bring it on.
On the flip side, can you imagine how no rugby player on that field, with that done to them with Ardy Surveyor, would go, Sir, he just did it. It's not right. It's not fair.
Although James Haskell did go wild about water's been squirted at him.
Oh, yes, he did.
You can't do that.
Sir, you can't do that.
If you're talking about optics, though, Ardy Surveyor's first half, he scored 2 tries. He assisted 1 try.
Yeah, ridiculous player.
Absolutely ridiculous. And you've got this extra... Well, you've got a yellow card, and you've got this extra bit thrown in. Yeah. Talk about, like, you sometimes go for the... what would an excitable 10-year-old boy say? More! Give me more of that Ardy Surveyor's performance in that first half.
Think about... The game's struggling. We're not getting enough traction. People are leaving the game. We need more eyes on it. So exciting the crowds. You're going to remove Ardy Surveyor for 2 weeks. I mean, that's the last. You want to be running a system where Ardy Surveyor plays every single week, and he's the main focal point of absolutely everything. That's what you want to see. Removing him because he did a hand gesture is so self-defeating.
Yeah,
like, is that?
It hasn't happened yet. Let's hope it doesn't. And common sense prevails.
If he's been cited. Little slap on the wrist. Probably don't do that again, Ardy. Crack on.
Yeah. So that was Ardy.
I did see another take, which was the other side. Oh, it's okay because the All Blacks do it.
Well, this is interesting,
which
right?
I found that an interesting.
There was a period when that got banned from the hacker.
Well, no, what happened?
Because it was. Oh, they don't use it anymore.
They do use it.
Well, they do
use it again.
So they decide which one they want to use.
Yeah.
Before the game, but they do that. And Australia is obviously the little whiny Australians who had a problem.
But then this is the one thing. So when in the Maori culture and when they do the haka, they stick their tongue out. That's to represent what the opposition's head will look like when it's been chopped off.
I'm all for
I think that's why they. I don't quote me on it. I believe that is the case. It's sort of they're simulating a head that's.
I hope you're educated, Tim.
Severed.
I hope you don't need to be educating yourself more.
Phil is fact checking me as we speak. I'm sure.
I'm looking at the Kapropanga, it was withdrawn in 2007.
Yeah, I remember that happening.
And it was again withdrawn when they played in the 2019 World Cup. So they did the Kapropanga, but they didn't do that.
If you want to do it, do it. It's part of the dance. Do it. You can dance however you want, and I can ignore it.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got it slightly wrong on that because I've just looked. Well, again, there may be.
Yeah,
this is just the top answer on. Yeah. On a generic search engine, it says one of the typical moves in a haka is for the males to stick their tongue out and bulge their eyes. It's both funny and scary to see. Who's written this? Anyway, it says the traditional meaning of the move is to say to the enemy, "My mouth waters and I lick my lips, for soon I will taste your flesh."
Okay, I mean, fine.
Bit of cannibalism.
Fine. Great. You can dance how you want. We can ignore it however you want.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Doesn't bother me. You could windmill in front of me for 5 minutes if that's what you want to do. But just don't. Nonsense. The whole thing is nonsense.
Yeah.
So, talking of nonsense, Danny Kerr's child went to play schools rugby under sevens. No scores were kept. Yada, 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 yada. Non-competitive sport. What do you think?
It's been going for a while now.
Yeah, it's kind of an old debate, isn't it? But it's just so interesting to see. It's interesting to see the type of person that really thinks that thinks that this is a good idea, and it's even more interesting to see the kind of person that thinks that this is a high-minded idea.
Well, what one of our listeners, Rich, has emailed on this topic.
Oh, please.
He's a coach of. He said, I saw Danny Kerr's tweet and JB's response, and I'm sure some people see this as another example of the sport's essence being neutered. I just wanted to share a perspective of someone who helps coach an under-8s team and think on balance it's actually a good thing. Saying, like most kids, the kids in our team are very competitive. Even if we aren't keeping score, they have a reasonable idea of whether they were better or worse than the other team.
Throw it in the bin. Just delete this one.
He says, well, just to give another perspective, you said you're interested in it. So, however, not keeping a score means they focus more on their involvements in a game.
No, throw it in the bin.
In other words, they focused on the stuff that's going on that make them love the game.
No.
And what we ultimately want players to be good at.
No, none of that is true.
So what I can understand the intent behind this. So quite often at under 8s level, and you even get it to a much lesser degree, but at under 15s where my son plays now, you get a team with one massive lad. Mm-hmm. And the whole team's game plan, but it happens particularly at younger ages, the whole team's game plan is give it to that one lad and he will just run and never pass.
Yeah.
And that's not good for
That's not
him
good for anyone.
or the opposition.
Sometimes they have racist dads. Is this the...
But the remedy...
Do you remember that stuff?
Who gets free tickets?
Who gets free tickets from Premiership Rugby?
The remedy to this is, and this is where I'm with you on balance, JB, much more so with you, is the emphasis is on having good people running these teams.
Yeah.
Good values from the parents and the coaches, because any coach worth their salt would not let their team do that. Because winning, I have no problem with keeping score, but as I've been involved with my son's team going up, I'll give you an example. So we've got 30 lads, 29 lads that are in the under 15s. When it comes to Lancashire Cup semi-final next week, we will pick a squad and next Sunday, we will pick a squad, and some lads won't be in it.
Is it home or away? Sorry,
it's at home.
I might watch that. I'm going to watch that.
There's quite a big crowd going to be coming up. But every single time there is a game that is not a Lancashire Cup game, we give every player half a game, even if it means, as a consequence, and sometimes the lads are frustrated by this, we risk losing matches as a result.
Yeah, there's so many angles to this. So first of all, the game is just the game, right? So just leave the game alone. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. So whatever the game is, and whatever your solution is to increase participation or make them focus on this, that and the other, what you're talking about is not the game. You're talking about drills. Do your drills in training and then play the game. So if you want to increase participation by not keeping the score in some game which looks marginally like netball or something, please by all means do that in your training. When you play the game, you play the game. Second thing, kids have been playing competitive sport for millennium, and it's a very modern day narcissistic mindset we have that right now, in this current moment of time, we know far more than all of our ancestors. Maybe we play sports and maybe we keep scores and have done for millennium because there's a good reason for that. So don't mess around. Just because you've been writing... Academics in sports has been around relatively for 5 minutes, and they expect us to show deference to them. No, I'm not entirely sure they've added any value, let alone they deserve deference. So that would be my first take. My second take is the opposite to what they are suggesting, because it's all like lovely and fluffy and increased participation, and enjoyment and all the rest of it. They seem to think that the opposite to that, or anything which doesn't, or anything which is different to their approach, means that you must be a win at all costs type guy. There's either do it this way or you'll win at all costs. It's toxic. Someone sent me a video, right, of a bit of propaganda made by the RFU or the FA or something, and it's just had really bad behaviour by parents, and hitting the side of a football post and swearing at the ref. It's all done to music. It's like, well, you could do that to anything, couldn't you? Really, if I really wanted to paint anything in a bad light, I could do that.
Don't pick the most extreme example and paint everyone with that.
But the problem is with the win-at-all-cost mentality, if you are win-at-all-cost mentality, which I probably am in a lot of ways, is that the win-at-all-cost mentality does not work. Right? If you're win-at-all-costs, it won't work. So it's self-defeating. If you're win-at-all costs, if win-at-all-costs is your mantra, the last thing you want to do is act like a win-at-all-cost guy, because you won't win. It's completely and utterly pointless. You win by running a good programme, by learning from your defeats, from doing all these things. The example that they give to counter what they think is progressive and constructive coaching for kids simply just doesn't exist. In the vast majority of cases, it just doesn't exist.
It's a straw man.
It is. It's complete lies. But you're meant to feel that you are that guy if you disagree with them. And they're just
you've just described the culture, the society in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That's what you just described.
And they'll bombard you with all this propaganda.
If the people that don't agree with you think the polar opposite to you, and no nuances allowed in between.
And it's particularly in like the educational establishments, and people who work in education, they'll describe things like, what I'm talking about is a scientific fact, and yours is just a point of view. Like, yeah, it is a point of view, but it's a point of view that's been held by billions of people over thousands of years. And you've read a paper that was written 5 years ago, and you think it's a scientific fact. You're the stupid one, not me. It's so obvious. I don't need scientific papers to count the moon, or indeed tell me the effect of the tide on sandcastles. You just don't need it.
Yeah, I would just say one thing we've said before, so I won't labour it because we've gone over it. But it's once again another example of people ignoring or denying the reason why rugby exists in the first place, because rugby is a game which attracts a certain type of person, and to try and whitewash the competitive element of it out, or that winning and losing isn't part of the process or a learning experience or whatever, is to deny the absolute fundamental nature of the reason why rugby became a sport in the first place.
Someone tweeted back at me like, a PE professional, kids are looking for a multi-sport inclusivity. I was like, I've never heard a child.
Rugby's not for everyone.
No, but this is their point in general. This is their world. This is a worldview. So I have a 7-year-old. She has lots of 7-year-old friends. Not one of them has ever said to me, I would play that sport, but it's just not inclusive enough. I want to play a multi-sport inclusive game. No, you want to play the multi-sport inclusive game because it's your ideology. The girls have got nothing to say about it. They want to play netball and wear pink hoodies. That's what they want to do. So yeah, it's an ideology. They're stealing from kids.
And whether it's rugby or anything, the actual harm that is done, if a harm is done by the winning or losing, is when the adults in the room have poor values or are just bad characters.
If the adults in the room...
And that's the same regardless of the sport, regardless of the rules.
If the adults in the room think losing is damaging, and they think, even if they subconsciously pass it on to kids will start to think that losing is damaging. By removing the loss and not keeping the score at an early age, you're sending the message, even though you're not saying it explicitly, you're saying that if you lose, that's a really bad thing. Far more so than just losing. So then when you do introduce losing, you're like, oh, hang on a minute, what's this horrible feeling which I've got? Oh, well, it's the thing you should have been doing since the age of 5, which is losing. You need to lose. So,
well, I mean, I don't want to sound like a middle-aged man, but
however,
it's been noticeable. Young people coming into the workforce cannot take constructive. I've seen people just melt down when they're told anything other than "that was incredible what you just did."
I tried really hard on that, but it's wrong.
No, yeah, it's like someone's trying to say, "Look, that was wrong. We just need to show you how to do it." It's like they cannot cope with it. Well, some individuals in certain situations have not been able to cope with it.
That is the value of competitive sport, because there is no hiding. I tried really hard, but you lost.
Yeah, when the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, exactly. So kids should have... Yeah, in fact, you managed to talk me into it. It's even more competitive. and we need to root out these people that think, oh God, we must keep the score. We must focus on the thing that they enjoy. You don't even know what the thing is that they enjoy. You don't know. Right. Any more rugby?
Games next week.
Any more domestic rugby?
Ulster put 40 points on Cardiff.
Okay.
Your beloved
Ealing Trailfinders and Ospreys are potentially merging.
Interesting.
We talked about this the other week as if it was like, how would that work? How will that happen? But basically, this is Ospreys being taken on. At least 13 players from Ospreys being taken on by Ealing, and that team based in West London, I think, is it?
Yeah, so the idea is, as I understand it, there's going to be some games played in London for the South African games in the URC. So if any South African team plays against the Ospreys, they might do that in London if Ealing and Ospreys merge. They've been talking about this for a long, long time, to be fair.
Which, if you can get a South African team playing in London, there's quite a big South African population in London.
So Ealing, I mean, I kind of dislike Ealing, and I kind of like Ealing. So I dislike Ealing because I don't know, they're in the Championship and they've got loads of money and they're throwing it about.
But they're not... It's almost like they're limiting their potential by saying, well, we're not going to increase we're not going to do anything to the stadium, even though we're going to spend millions of pounds on a rugby operation. So, which it still strikes me as odd. It's like a bit of cutting your nose to spite your face.
And this is where I kind of like Ealing. Right? So I do like the fact that they're just like, okay, well, you want to do that? Well, we'll find a loophole.
Yeah.
And we've got enough money to do it. They've got FU money, and the even better part of that is they've got F me money, when you can just afford to F yourself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing. And I just love the way they just don't accept it. I mean, God knows how much you must love rugby to really want this professional setup so badly that you'll leave the English structure, or you'll go and join the URC, or you'll do whatever it takes to get professional rugby in Ealing. I really respect that, actually.
Oh, you've got to respect it. Yeah. If you admire professional sport in any way, you've got to respect it.
Yeah, it's an incredible middle finger to people just trying to keep them down. Particularly bearing in mind what happened at Wasps and Worcester. Like, if you want a backer that really is serious, it does sound like Ealing are really serious.
Yeah,
they certainly are serious.
Tell you what, if the URC accept them, and they go and do that, it's going to be very hard to get that money and that backing and that supporter base back. Because they've said, we don't want you. And they said, oh, we'll do something else. And if it's successful, they're going to look like absolute morons.
Yeah.
So the other part of this story, I guess, is the Welsh contracts. So allegedly, a lot of lads who are on 200k plus a year, the new contracts are getting something like 30k.
So I saw a headline that said, named 12 players ranging from 50 to 250k are being offered some of them are being offered contracts in the region of 30k. So
that's just that much into that much doesn't go. So
I mean, for a start, it's derogatory, isn't it? So first things first,
no one has to say yes, but
just don't offer the contract. Just don't offer it. Just say.
If their hands are tied, and they're in a position they're like that, and they're probably doing it like this is awful. This is a horrible situation. I hate the fact we're doing this. You're probably going to just feel offended, but nonetheless, this is all we're able to offer because of the reason.
There are some fascinating things going on in Welsh rugby. It's not an area which I really specialise in or I know about. It's just not. It's never interested me. But there's a lot of talk about the WRU putting money into reserves. So last year they put something like 4.5 million into reserves. Yeah, they've got. So they do have some money.
Well, it's good. Like 15% of that's been inflated away into thin air.
Exactly right.
Well done.
Exactly
well done,
right.
guys. That sounds like a good WRU move.
So they do make money. They make a lot of cash. Now, I would love to know why this is the case. Someone who knows about the politics of Welsh rugby will know. I do not know. But it does strike me more and more like if the WRU could just get their act together, they could have their very own Leinster-type operation somewhere. And I don't know why. Someone is going to correct me as to why they can't. But I don't know why they can't.
They can. They
could, though, couldn't they?
They can. They totally could. What they haven't done, in summary, without going into depth, because, again, I don't know the ins and outs, but basically, the WRU looked at how well it was going in Ireland and tried to transplant that model into their own system rather than finding something bespoke that works for Wales. And you see in Scotland, where they tried with the Borders, they tried with the other teams. Now Scotland are in a position where they've felt their way into a situation where they're now gone, this works for us. Players can play wherever they want. We'll have 2 teams because we can manage that. And we'll have a Super 6 semi-pro tournament with some of the traditional clubs like Melrose to support that coming through. And they've come up with something specific for Scotland, and it's working. Wales tried to take an off-the-shelf model in Ireland, plug it into where they are, and it does not work, and it's an absolute failure. And in the example of Ospreys, expecting Neath fans and Swansea fans to somehow, we're one team and we're really happy. No, never going to happen.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point. So, but those player contracts are not good. They are not good. It is more interesting to think, where the hell will these Welsh players go? So apparently Jared Evans, who's a very good fly-half at Cardiff, is linked with...
No, he's re-signed at Cardiff.
Has he? When did that happen?
I think this weekend.
Right, so
him
going to Harlequins, I was really excited about that. Really excited. I thought that'd be a good move. But he doesn't have his 25 caps.
But let me just emphasise, as we just sort of wrap up and looking at the URC, just emphasise how good the system in Leinster is. Edinburgh at home had a team out that featured, arguably one of the best back 3 players on earth, Buffelli, and international Mark Bennett and Ben Vellacott, Bill Matter, Hamish Watson, Luke Crosby as the back row, Sam Skinner in lock, Stuart McAnally at hooker. So they had a proper team out in Edinburgh. Missing a few internationals, obviously, but still. And a totally second Leinster team panned them.
What was the score?
47-27.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Who's in the Leinster team? Any names I recognise?
Yeah, I mean,
There's a few.
So Luke McGrath, Harry Byrne, Jamie Osborne, Jordan Lama, Dave
Carney was there.
Dave Carney?
Yeah.
Maloney in the second row, Rhys Ruddock, Max Deegan. So, but this is it. These are... Alatoa was there at tight head prop.
So names but not the first team.
No.
It's not the first team.
It's a total second team.
Yeah.
Whilst we're on wingers who we've not seen for a while, there was a winger playing for Ulster who we've not seen for a while, scoring some tries.
Stockers.
Yeah, boy.
Any danger he's going to be any good ever again?
If he gets a consistent run, he could be.
Come on, Crichton.
He's big, strong and fast enough. The boy...
It's
the absolute boy, though. Ballacoon,
but
not fit. James Hume is back fit now.
He is.
As well.
He played. Yeah.
Speaking of wingers we've not seen for a while, because you were mentioning some of the Welsh boys will reappear somewhere in the world.
Steph Evans.
Have you seen a couple of the players that are playing Super Rugby?
Nope.
So obviously Freddie Burns is playing for Tim's beloved Highlanders, which we knew about. Tim Cardell went out.
Tim Cardell, he's coming back.
He's coming back.
Newcastle, I think.
Yes, but he went out. Another one, I think he was at the Force. Kibarigi.
Oh yeah, I saw him.
Kibarigi, really?
Yeah. There's
Interesting.
a few boys that have headed out there.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He's very, very good.
Yes.
Interesting.
So games next weekend in the Gallagher Premiership.
Friday night,
Northampton Bath.
Yeah. Now this is a matchup that would
not even Northampton can lose this.
That would suit Northampton. Yes, but it's also potentially a matchup that Bath might quite like to get their season restarted.
Yeah, agreed.
On the back of Northampton getting absolutely hammered.
They're just over. I don't know.
Well, if Bristol only beat Bath by 3 points, that means Bath are going to
win 59-8.
Yeah, 50 odd points.
Yeah, math stacks up, doesn't it?
Yeah. So everyone's saying home win, Northampton Saints.
Probably, yeah.
I'd love. Do you know my dream job would be?
Although no Ludlam, no Courtney. So.
My dream job would be Bath recruitment.
Well, Bath are definitely missing their 3 best players that they've built their whole team around.
Barbary,
Lawrence, Hill.
Yeah.
Exeter, Newcastle on Saturday afternoon.
Exeter, correct. Everything that went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then
a lot went wrong for them.
On Sunday, early 2 1pm kickoffs, London Irish Sale.
Ooh.
London Irish Sale.
That'll be quite a nice game.
Yeah, it will be a good game.
Give me Irish.
Give me Sale.
I've got a feeling about Irish for that one as well. And same time, Gloucester play Leicester.
That's a great game.
Yeah.
That's an absolute
I'm
barnstormer.
going to say Leicester.
Yeah.
Gloucester?
I think so too. I think Leicester.
They're looking good. And Bristol play Harlequins, 3 p.m. kickoff.
Harlequins.
Yes, definitely Harlequins.
Probably Harlequins.
How come
And
no one else...
maybe Marcus Smith will be sent back to play again. Well, we'll get onto
Maybe,
that.
yeah.
We'll get onto that,
maybe.
talking about that in the international podcast,
Yes.
which is also in your feed, which is why you need to hit subscribe and support us at patreon.com/EggChasers if you appreciate it and you want to help keep the lights on. Other than that, let the boys play.
Boys play.